Hey, it's Keisha. Welcome and welcome back. We are on our next reading in the Aquarian, chapters 98 and 99. We're still in the Sermon of the Mount. I think it will conclude next week. So I hope you've enjoyed this slightly different telling than you're probably used to hearing. But let's go ahead and close our eyes and settle in. And just take a deep breath in and out. Another deep breath in and out. Begin to separate ourselves from the weak and the worldly way. With each breath, feeling ourselves being more present and more whole in our bodies, in this time, in this space. Reconnecting with your personal energy, your personal power. And you'll see a column of golden white light coming down over you. Breathe in the peace of this light. Feel the streams of light filling you to full. Making bright any dark places. When you're ready, gently lift up higher and higher in that column of light. Into our space, our celestial grove, where we have access to peace, all knowing, all ability, all potentialities. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Good stuff. Quick summary. Sermon on the Mount continues. Jesus unfolds to the 12 the spiritual aspects of the 9th commandment. And then Jesus formulates and presents to the 12 a practical code of spiritual ethics. Wait, no, that's 98, 99. So yeah, sorry. So the Sermon on the Mount continues. Jesus reveals to the 12 the spiritual aspects of the 7th, 8th, and 10th commandments. And then chapter 99 moves us into the spiritual aspects that he shares with the 12 of the 9th commandment. Yeah. The law forbids adultery, but in the eyes of law, adultery is an overt act, the satisfaction of the sensuous self outside the marriage bonds. Now, marriage, in the sight of law, is but a promise made by man and woman, by the sanction of a priest, to live for aye in harmony and love. No priest nor officer has power from God to bind two souls in wedded love. What is the marriage tie? Is it comprised in what a priest or officer may say? Is it the scroll on which the officer or priest has written the permission of the two to live in marriage bonds? Is it the promise of the two that they will love each other until death? Is love a passion that is subject to the will of man? Can man pick up his love as he would pick up precious gems and lay it down or give it out to anyone? Can love be bought and sold like sheep? Love is the power of God that binds two souls and makes them one. There is no power on earth that can dissolve the bond. The bodies may be forced apart by man or death for just a little time, but they will meet again. Now, in this bond of God, we find the marriage tie. All other unions are but bonds of straw, and they who live in them commit adultery, the same as they who satisfy their lust without the sanction of an officer or priest. But more than this, the man or woman who indulges lust with thoughts commits adultery. Whom God has joined together, man cannot part. Whom man has joined together, live in sin. Upon a table of the law, the great lawgiver wrote, "Thou shalt not steal. Before the eyes of law, a man to steal must take a thing that can be seen with eyes of flesh, without the knowledge or consent of him to whom the thing belongs. But lo, I say that he who in his heart desires to possess that which is not his own, and would deprive the owner of the thing without his knowledge or consent, is in the sight of God a thief. The things that men see not with eyes of flesh are more worth than are the things that man can see. A man's good name is worth 1,000 mines of gold, and he who says a word or does a deed that injures or defames that name has taken what is not his own and is a thief. Upon a table of the law we also read, "Thou shalt not covet anything." To covet is an all-consuming wish to have that which is not right for one to have, and such a wish, within the spirit of the law, is theft. The law has said, "Thou shalt not lie," but in the eyes of law, a man must lie to tell in words what is not true. Now, in the light of spirit law, deceit in any form is nothing but a lie. A man may lie by look or act, yea, even by his silence may deceive, and thus be guilty in the eyes of holy breath. It has been said in olden times, "Thou shalt not swear by thine own life." But lo, I say, swear not at all, not by the head, the heart, the eye, nor hand, nor by the sun, the moon, nor stars, not by the name of God, nor by the name of any spirit, good or bad. You shall not swear by anything, for in an oath there is no gain. A man whose word must be propped up by oath of any kind is not trustworthy in the sight of God or man. By oath you cannot make a leaf to fall, nor turn the color of a hair. The man of worth just speaks, and men know that he speaks the truth. The man who pours out many words to make men think he speaks the truth is simply making smoke to hide a lie. And there are many men with seeming double hearts, men who would serve 2 masters at a time, 2 masters quite averse. Men feign to worship God upon the Sabbath day and then pay court to Beelzebub on every other day. No man can serve 2 masters at a time, no more than he can ride 2 asses at a time into different ways. The man who feigns to worship God and Beelzebub is foe of God, a pious devil, and a curse of men. And man cannot lay treasures up in heaven and earth at once. Then lo, I say, lift up your eyes and see the safety vaults of heaven, and there deposit every gem, where moth and rust cannot corrupt, where thieves cannot break in and steal. There are no safety vaults on earth, no place secure from moth and rust and thieves. The treasures of the earth are but elusive things that pass away. Be not deceived. Your treasures are the anchor of the soul, and where your treasures are, your heart will be. Fix not your heart upon the things of earth. Be anxious not about the things to eat or drink or wear. God cares for those who trust in him and serve the race. Behold the birds. They praise God in their songs. The earth is made more glorious by the ministry of joy. God keeps them in the hollow of his hand, and not a sparrow falls to earth without his care. And every one that falls shall rise again. Behold the flowers of the earth. They trust in God and grow. They make the earth resplendent with their beauty and perfume. Look at the lilies of the field, the messengers of holy love. No son of man, not even Solomon in all his excellence, was ever clothed like one of these. And yet they simply trust in God. They feed from out of his hand. They lay their head to rest upon his breast. If God so clothes and feeds the flowers and birds that do his will he not feed and clothe his children when they trust in him? Seek first the kingdom of the soul, the righteousness of God, the good of men, and murmur not. God will protect and feed and clothe. So just a few quick notes from the things we have just read. Okay. The definition of, or love defined by spiritual law. Love is the power of God that binds 2 souls and makes them one. There is no power on earth that can dissolve the bond. I love that here. So when he first talks about the marriage tie, is it a promise made by man and woman? Well, first we need to remember that Jesus is speaking to his audience at his time, right? And we're getting this word from the Akashic Records as a download. So whatever current views we have on marriage being man and woman, that's current to our age and our time now. But in verse 10, he makes a point of saying, love is the power of God that binds two souls and makes them one. There is no power on earth that can dissolve the bond. So it's not about gender and sex. It's not about man and woman. It is about the energy of two souls. Because as we know, we reincarnate, we come back in different forms each time. And so that doesn't matter. It's the energy of the soul that matters. So it's the binding of those two energies. Yes. And then verse 20, right? A man's good name is worth 1,000 mines of gold. And he who says a word or does a deed that injures and defames the name has taken what is not his own and is a thief. Do not gossip. That should be end of lesson. But if we go back to, the impeccability of our word, if you don't know, don't speak it. And what you hear and see about another is just what your fleshy eyes can see. And and if you don't know the backstory or that particular perspective, then for you to speak about what you think you see, you're speaking out of turn and talking against someone. The rule is don't slander, don't gossip, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. This next one. A man whose word must be propped up by oath of any kind is not trustworthy in the sight of God or man. Have you ever talked to somebody and they say, well, to be honest with you, as if they hadn't been honest all that time before? Or if they say honestly, as if they hadn't been honest or they wouldn't be anyway. I've always thought that was interesting, especially since, my background is in sales, so I'm talking to people all the time, and people lie all the time. Like they just simply do. And what has always been important to me, because my character and my name is really, the only thing that I have, or what is the most important thing that I have, I really strive that my authority and power comes from the truth that I speak. And I don't feel the need to preface something by saying honestly, because every word that I speak is going to be honest, to the best of my ability and perception at that time and space. So yeah, if you have to preface it, that's already the indication that maybe there had been something already in this. Just be aware and see if you don't find that to be true, and then comment whether you do or don't. Or if you're one of those people that uses that phrase, tell me why that works for you or why it doesn't. Or I guess if you use it, it works for you. So you can tell me why it works. And then he goes on to say, the man of worth just speaks, and men know that he speaks the truth. That's it. That's it right there. Like, you don't have to preface it if it's the truth. People have an internal truth meter, and when you're in alignment with it, they know. So this next one, the man who pours out many words to make men think he speaks the truth is simply making smoke to hide a lie. For as long as I can remember, and certainly before I even read the Aquarian, I always talked about people smoke screening, throwing up a bunch of words, trying to, convince me of something. And I think there's a Chinese proverb or something too, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's about, the more words you have to use, the less truth there is in it. And that's just, in sales, they call it diarrhea of the mouth. But yeah, I mean, if it's the truth, then it doesn't take words. It doesn't take many words to say it. And something to keep in mind and be aware of when you're in your interactions. And I'll say this about that. I once had an interview. So for many times I've applied to jobs, I haven't always put that I'm a minister, and that I have a master's in divinity. And at one particular job, for whatever reason, I decided to include it. I was probably trying to just show up in full and see what the result would be. And I remember having that on the resume, and they stopped and asked me about that. And they asked, well, what practical purpose does that serve, or how has that served you? And it's in that. It is, it's the understanding of human interaction and action. When you have a teaching like this and your focus is on living and being disciplined to the teachings, then I think that makes me a better person, because I don't practice lie and deception. I don't gossip about others. When I speak, I'm speaking truth, and particularly in this point in time where so much of work is happening remotely. One of the keys, I think, to being a really successful manager in a remote environment is having high integrity and speaking with truth, because that translates in email and phone, and people can trust that. And so being honest to that degree and trustworthy, I think, makes a difference in so many ways. So in that regard, yes, it is important that I have that I am a master of divinity, because this is how I present to the world, and it's how I interact with others, and how I require that they interact with me. And then the last point that I had to mention. So we get to the lilies of the field. See how they toil, neither do they spin. Well, that's from the King James Version, but here, it talks about how, no son of man, not even Solomon in all his excellence, was ever clothed like one of these. Seek first the kingdom of the soul, and the righteousness of God, the good of men. Murmur not, don't complain. God will protect, feed, and clothe. When I was in seminary, we were given this passage and asked to write a poem that reflected the energy of the verses related to the lilies of the field. And for the longest, the whole week, as I'm preparing for my next lesson and trying to get my homework done, I was thinking about, what is my poem going to be? And I couldn't get it, didn't get it. And then finally I'm like, look, I got homework due. I need this poem. And of course I'm in the shower, which is the font of wisdom and good ideas. And all of a sudden it comes to me. And so my poem was, what happens when there are these things that I want but can't afford? Wait, the voice says. Wait on the Lord. And there you have it. All right, this is cool. Like I said, it's been fun reading the Sermon on the Mount, again, from a different perspective. And we will conclude it next week, so we have that to look forward to. And in the meantime, I love you. We'll go with that. I'll see you. Bye.